Hello and welcome to our screencast giving details into our game Elemental. In total, our group consists of 5 members, 3 of which are artists and 2 are coders. All of us contributed our share to the production of this game. First, let's say a bit about the game itself. Elemental is a top-down, endless runner fantasy shoot-'em-up which pits the player against an endless onslaught of enemies. The player's goal is to survive as long as possible and achieve the highest score they can.
Elemental puts across a cartoony art style, making for a bright and colourful experience. The different contrasts in colour also make different elements of the game easily distinguishable, giving the player a sense of ease as they are not wasting time by thoroughly searching the game screen for different parts of information and instead can make quick glances at the information they need. For example, the health and mana bar, which clearly stands out from the rest of the game's HUD. A particular aspect of the HUD I'd like to draw your attention to is the book itself. From this design, we wanted it to seem as if the player is looking through the actual eyes of the character, creating a strong connection and more immersive experience for the player themselves.
We pretty much exclusively use Photoshop for the production of our sprites, as the program offers a vast array of tools and features. This allows us to further enhance the look of our art and take it to whole new levels. Photoshop also gives us a good platform from which we can create our animations and produce animation strips that were imported directly into the game. We did, however, use Adobe Illustrator when we initially drew the main character sprites. The reasoning behind this is because we were wanting to see if using the brush in the Illustrator would give us a cleaner look in general, since the brush automatically smooths the lines drawn by the user. However, we found out that this tool had little effect due to the size of the sprites that we were drawing.
In terms of the coding side of software we used Unity version 5.5 as the main game engine for our project's development. We were originally using 5.1.2, but unfortunately somewhere along the line our project was converted to a 5.5 project. This made it fairly difficult to find computers that had this version of Unity on them, but we managed completely fine regardless. We mainly used a mixture of both MonoDevelop and Visual Studio 2013 for our coding. I preferred the use of Visual Studio 2013. However, Jake preferred the use of MonoDevelop, but since there was no conflict between both IDEs, we could successfully use whichever IDE we preferred when developing the game. We also, over the course of our project, used Photoshop a few times to dummy some placeholders so that we had a basis to work on whilst the artists were busy drawing the actual finished sprites. In this short demo, I'm going to show you the core mechanics of our game. The player is able to move side to side using the A and D key. They're also able to fire towards the cursor using the left mouse button. Using the right mouse button, the player can switch elements of the staff. Each of the 4 elements have a distinct advantage over a certain enemy type, the orc. The orc is completely restricted to moving down the screen on the y-axis. It also has the capability of shooting a projectile directly down on that same y-axis. This enemy type is weak to water. The bat. The bat is the most evasive enemy type. With its fast zigzag movement, the player will be frantically trying to hit it. This enemy type is weak to earth. The wolf. The wolf is our scariest enemy type. Its movement pattern is highly unpredictable and will stop at any point on the x-axis. When the wolf stops, it will sprint straight down towards the player. This enemy type is weak to fire. Besides the player having a health bar, they also have a mana bar. The mana bar is drained whenever the player makes an attack, alongside the mana regenerating over time. If you were to hit an enemy with its weakness, you receive the mana back from that attack. When the player kills an enemy, the enemy will drop some gold. Gold is our game's score system. For every 50 points that you earn, a goblin with a power-up has a chance to run across the screen. The power-up that you receive means that for a short period, our player will have faster regenerating mana. If the player is to achieve 100 or more points, our game's boss will appear, wielding 4 elemental orbs that float around him. There are a total of 4 bosses in our game, each representing each of the 4 different elements. Each other boss spawns when the player has defeated the previous boss and a certain score has been reached. Each boss increases in difficulty, as the orbs have different respawn delays. The 4 orbs that float around the boss are the source of his invulnerability, and he will not be harmed until they are destroyed. If a player uses the counter element to each orb, they will be able to destroy the orb. However, if it's the wrong element, the element will shoot off into the direction of a player. When all orbs are gone, the boss is undefended and vulnerable to all attacks, especially its weakness. If a player is to lose all their lives, a game over screen will appear displaying the number of enemies killed and the amount of gold the player had collected. The player is also prompted to enter a name so that their score can be submitted onto the high scores table. If it's too long, however, the player will not be able to proceed. Back in the main menu, the other 2 options that we can access is the high scores table, where you can look at the top 5 currently highest scores on the system, and finally we have the info screen. This page is here for the player to use if, at any time during their playtime, they need any help. Overall, we feel the project was a success and we are happy with the product that we have created by the end of this module. The game functions as we originally planned it to, and all the functions we wanted at the start have been implemented. We made great progress as a team and collaborated well over the weeks. We feel something we did right was communication. In between sessions we would keep in touch over Facebook, constantly sharing our ideas and discussing potential extra features that we could incorporate. All ideas were organised on Trello, and we updated this either on the day we completed the task or within the Scrum meetings to see what we have all achieved on that day. Nearing the end of our project, we all realised the endless possibilities that we could implement to make the game even more enjoyable, and ended up making a hefty list of great additional features we could make. But unfortunately, due to time constraints, we have had to postpone these additions. We plan on working on this game outside of our university time, since we all feel that we all got on well and enjoyed the project thoroughly. In terms of things that went wrong, we did have a bit of a file management conflict due to the naming schemes we used for our folders at the start. This was since we didn't label each version of a folder. With, let's say, version 1.2, which made it hard for us to remember which version was the most up to date. Since then, we would use suitable file names and kept a well organised file structure. Continuing on with the features we would later include, we feel incorporating a store and upgradable character would add a new side to the game and make the player score all that more important. We are then looking to incorporate in a feeling of progression where the different enemies and element projectiles appear over time as the player improves, or possibly having damage numbers pop out of the enemies when they are hit, as well as damaged animations. This will give the player a sense of improvement and give them another goal to strive towards. In terms of improvement, we would like to fade out the text on the info screens before the animations start for turning the page, or overhauling the text so that it is written onto the book as you turn to the next scene. We would also look into giving the goblin different power-ups that he can drop. This would add a bit more variety to our game and allow for more replayability, and would open up new pathways into increasing the gameplay difficulty over time.